Hi everyone, Arnold here, santamuertemagic.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. The topic of today's video is Santa Muerte altars on the ground. So in my second book, Santa Muerte Devotion 101, I talk about how to build a physical Santa Muerte altar. One statement I made in that book is that a Santa Muerte altar can be constructed on the floor or on the ground. For context, this is the statement I made regarding that. Quote, "It doesn't matter where or how high you put your Santa Muerte altar, but you should place it with respect. This means the area should be clean and safe from random disturbances. You could place your altar up on a bookshelf or mantle, or directly on the floor in the corner of a room." End quote. Now, this statement has rubbed some people the wrong way. I acknowledge that. But now I'll go on to tell you why I think these negative perceptions of that statement are perhaps a little misguided. First of all, if you go back and listen to the passage I just quoted from my book, it was not a directive. It was an illustration of the spectrum of options. I said in the book, you could put the altar up on a bookshelf, or you could put the altar on the floor or on the ground in the corner of a room. If you do not want to put the altar on the ground, then obviously you would not do that. Remember, there are no popes, there are no bishops in this spiritual thing of ours, this cult of death devotion. There are no prophets publishing edicts that we are all expected to follow. If Santa Muerte accepts us all, which must be true if she comes for us all, then she must accept us all as we are, whether we pursue death devotion through the rules and traditions of some bigger community, or whether we pursue death devotion independently, expressing our devotion as our own hearts call us to express our devotion. I will say, going back to that statement in the book, I did consciously put it in there. And I knew many people would disagree with it, especially people coming from more traditional Catholic or folk Catholic understandings of Santa Muerte. I know my mother disagrees with it. A devoted Catholic would probably never put something that they consider sacred on the ground. And that's fine, but Santa Muerte devotees are not a monolith, and they come from more places than just Catholicism. There are also devotees of Santa Muerte who come from traditions, magical and spiritual traditions, where drawing magical symbols, sacred symbols, on the ground is quite common. Practitioners of voodoo will recognize what I'm talking about, as they will often trace magical symbols on the ground in a powder like cornmeal or eggshell powder. Practitioners of American or European Wicca will recognize what I'm talking about, as they will often trace a magical symbol like a pentagram, or maybe even just a basic circle, on the ground in order to represent a sacred space. If you are at all familiar with the occultic practices pioneered by John Dee and Edward Kelly, then you have probably seen that famous picture of these two men apparently summoning a spirit from within the confines of a magical symbol drawn or set upon the ground. So this idea generally that the ground is off limits for the practice of magic or for acts of communion with what people perceive to be the divine or supernatural is just not supported in the historical practice of magic, again, in general. Could you find me traditions where the ground is off limits? Yes, I concede. But anyone who is incorporating the ground into their practices is obviously not engaging with a practice where the ground is off limits, and therefore cannot be held to the standards of that tradition or system. Additionally, believe it or not, but not everybody who may wish to construct a physical altar to Santa Muerte may have access to an elevated surface on which to do it. Not everybody is so privileged that they have access to a bookshelf or a nightstand or a coffee table that they can convert for their devotion. Believe it or not, some people are so poor that they do not have these things. What should we tell these people? Sorry, you are too poor to have a physical altar to Santa Muerte? Of course not. Because as I said, if Santa Muerte accepts us all, then she accepts those of us who are so poor that our only option is to build a Santa Muerte altar upon the ground. So I say all that to say this, that just because you put something on the ground, it is not inherently disrespectful. You can put something on the ground with respect, with reverence, and not lose any power, not lose any magic through that action. Just like with all other aspects of devotion, with all other aspects of magic, what matters the most ultimately is your intent. If you construct an altar to Santa Muerte upon the ground, but do it with a kind and respectful heart, then that is the only way the action can be perceived, with kindness and respect. So I stand by my statement. Put your altar wherever you like. And if anybody doesn't like it, then they don't have to look at it. And likewise, if you are worried about anybody misunderstanding or misconstruing some aspect of your devotion or some aspect of your practice of magic, uh, you are under no obligation to share how you express your devotion or how you practice your form of magic. Hopefully, I've explained everything clearly, but as always, please reach out to me if you have any questions. You can get in touch through the contact form on the website. There is also the Patreon Messenger system and the Discord chat server. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time. Bye.